Hello there, and welcome. Tonight we're going to take a gentle journey together, a story to help you relax and drift into a peaceful sleep. The nature of chaos. Tonight we begin with the very first moment of existence in Greek mythology, the moment before there was a sky or an ocean or even the gods themselves. We start with chaos. Now when we hear the word chaos today, we think of confusion, destruction, noise and disorder. A battlefield, a storm, a room after children have run through it, that's chaos in the modern sense. But to the ancient Greeks, chaos meant something very different. It wasn't a storm of things colliding, it was an emptiness, a yawning gap, a great cosmic void that stretched out endlessly, silent and still. Imagine it. No sun, no moon, no stars, no earth under your feet, no sound of wind, no flowing water, not even time passing in the way we know it. Just a boundless, formless expanse. That is chaos. The Greek poet Hesiod, in his Theogony, one of the earliest surviving texts about the origins of the cosmos, tells us that before anything else, chaos came to be. No explanation of how, no cause. It simply existed. From that silent abyss, the rest of the world would slowly begin to form. But what was chaos exactly? The Greeks themselves weren't always in agreement. For some, it was a literal gap, a chasm, a nothingness stretching between earth and heaven that had yet to be pulled into shape. For others, chaos was more like a primordial state, a kind of raw potential, unshaped matter waiting to be given form. Later philosophers, centuries after Hesiod, even tried to give chaos a more scientific spin. Some described it as a swirling mass of elements, a kind of proto-universe before order took hold. But the poets were less concerned with science. For them, chaos was pure mystery, the place where the story begins, but the reasons are beyond human grasp. And perhaps that's the point. By starting with chaos, the Greeks set the stage for a universe that isn't born from logic or design, but from something more mysterious and human. A sense of wonder, of asking the question, what was there before there was anything at all? If you let your imagination drift there, to that endless stillness, you might feel the unsettling loneliness of it. The silence of chaos was not peaceful. It was heavy. An infinite pause, no movement, no change, no warmth, no cold. A place where you could wander forever and never find an edge, never find light. Time itself, if it could be said to exist at all, didn't move forward in chaos. It simply stretched, empty, without beginning or end. But in that silence, there was possibility. The Greeks imagined that from this void slowly, the first powers of existence stirred awake. Not yet gods in the way we think of Zeus or Athena, but great primordial forces. They were less like people and more like embodiments of reality itself, earth, sky, night, desire. And so from chaos, the story of creation begins. It is the threshold, the border between nothingness and something, between a universe without shape and the first spark of form. It's fascinating that even in the oldest Greek tales, creation doesn't begin with perfection or harmony. It doesn't begin with a benevolent God crafting a world out of love. It begins with emptiness, with absence. And then, step by step, the universe struggles its way into being. That tells us a lot about how the Greeks understood life itself, as something hard-won, fragile, and born from conflict as much as from harmony. In chaos, we see both the loneliness of nothingness and the potential of everything to come. For without that silent, endless void, there could be no story at all. The first beings emerge. From the yawning void of chaos, the silence began to stir. It wasn't sudden, not a bang or a flash, but a slow and mysterious unfurling, like a mist, parting to reveal shadows within. Out of chaos the first beings emerged. They were not born in the way mortals are born, nor even in the way the later gods would be born. They simply came to be. The first of them was Gaia, Earth. She was not merely soil and stone, but a vast and enduring presence. Gaia was the first stable ground in the cosmos, the Great Mother, the foundation upon which everything else would rest. She stretched wide and firm, her body becoming the land, the mountains, the valleys. Unlike the emptiness of chaos, Gaia had substance, permanence. To the Greeks, she was both goddess and ground, both divine and physical. She represented the eternal truth that all life, even the gods, must have a place to stand. But Gaia was not alone. Alongside her came Tartarus, a being as much as a place. Tartarus was the deep abyss, darker and more dreadful than chaos itself. If chaos was emptiness, then Tartarus was imprisoning depth. It was the place beneath the earth, the ultimate pit, a region so far below Gaia that later poets would say an anvil dropped from heaven would take 9 days to fall before it reached her surface, and another 9 days to reach Tartarus. He was the embodiment of the underworld's most fearsome depths, the dungeon where enemies of the gods would one day be locked away. If Gaia was stability, Tartarus was the reminder of danger and punishment lurking far beneath. Then from chaos also came Nyx, the goddess of night. Nyx was not simply the darkness of evening. She was darkness itself, a shadow with wings, cloaking the cosmos in her veil. She was powerful, mysterious, and deeply feared, even by Zeus himself in later ages. From her would spring countless other personifications: doom, death, sleep, dreams, blame, misery. She was the mother of forces both inevitable and inescapable. But in these earliest days, Nyx stood as the silent contrast to what had not yet appeared: light. With Nyx came her brother and companion, Erebus, darkness. He was not just the shadow of night, but the gloom that fills the spaces where light cannot reach, the deep mist of the underworld, the dimness at the edges of the world. Together, Nyx and Erebus formed a balance, night and shadow, filling the void of chaos with texture. They made absence itself into a presence. And then, perhaps most strangely of all, there came Eros. Not the mischievous winged boy with arrows that we might picture from later myths. That version came much, much later. This first Eros was a primordial force, the embodiment of desire. He was the spark that made things come together, that drew opposites into union, that allowed creation to happen at all. Without Eros, Gaia would remain alone. Nyx and Erebus would drift in eternal shadow, and nothing would ever be born. But with him, the possibility of union and generation took root. The symbolism here is striking. The Greeks weren't just telling stories, they were laying out their understanding of reality in poetic form. Gaia, the earth, represents the ground beneath us. Stability, nourishment, the mother who bears all. Tartarus, the abyss, is the reminder that beneath stability lies danger, chaos, and punishment. Nyx and Erebus show us the inevitability of shadow, that darkness is just as fundamental to the cosmos as light. And Eros, the great uniter, reflects a truth humans have always known. It is attraction, desire, the pull between forces that creates new life and keeps the universe in motion. What's remarkable is that these first beings are not orderly, shining gods. They are not human-shaped rulers sitting on thrones. They are forces of existence itself, raw, overwhelming, and abstract. Earth, abyss, night, darkness, and desire. Before there could be gods, before there could be stories of love and war, there had to be these foundations. So from chaos, the void was no longer empty. The first presence of earth, the first depths of punishment, the first veil of night, the first shadow of darkness, and the first spark of longing. These were the roots of everything else to come. The first generations of night and darkness. From the shadowed expanse of Nyx, night herself, and the silent gloom of Erebus darkness, new forces began to stir. Unlike Gaia or Tartarus, these were not the raw materials of the cosmos. They were personifications of experience, forces that would shape the rhythm of the universe and human understanding alike. Nyx and Erebus were powerful, even alone. But from their union came ether, the bright upper air, the very substance of light, the divine glow that illuminates the world. Ether was not the sun nor the stars, but the medium through which light travels, the pure essence of radiance itself. Alongside ether came Hemera, the goddess of day. She brought the light of life, movement and visibility, replacing the vast emptiness with cycles, with moments, with the gift of seeing and knowing. Here the Greeks were doing something subtle and beautiful. Night and darkness are necessary, they are eternal and constant, but from them light arises, out of shadow comes visibility, clarity and structure. The universe is not born into perfection, it emerges from tension and contrast. Darkness is just as vital as light because without it there would be no perception, no cycles, no boundaries, and no understanding of time. You can almost picture it, Nyx rising over the horizon of chaos, her dark cloak stretching across the void, and Erebus whispering beneath, stilling the motionless space. Then softly, as if from the rhythm of their union, ether's glow appears, and Hemera's light spills over the first earth. Night retreats, not vanquished but balanced, making room for the first cycle, day and night, light and shadow, awareness and mystery. This is the first cosmic balance. The Greeks were describing more than just the physical universe. They were mapping human experience onto creation itself. Day and night, light and shadow, sleep and wakefulness. These are not mere natural phenomena. They are lived realities, abstracted into divine forms to help humans understand the ebb and flow of life. Nyx herself was both terrifying and revered. Her children too often carried ambivalent power. Morpheus, the god of dreams, Thanatos, the personification of death, Hypnos, sleep, Nemesis, retribution. Each born from night, each a reflection of human experience distilled into divine form. Darkness produces knowledge as much as mystery, fear as much as reflection. Through ether and Hemera the world gains contrast. Light only exists because there is darkness to define it, and shadow only matters when it is seen alongside illumination. The Greeks understood that balance was not just a physical law, it was a philosophical truth. Life itself is a negotiation between opposing forces, and order arises not from eliminating one side, but from allowing each to exist in harmony. And in this earliest generation we begin to see the universe as a living story, a dynamic narrative in which forces act, react, and beget one another. From chaos comes night and darkness, and from them come the first traces of light and day. Creation is not instant, it is an unfolding drama, a careful choreography between absence and presence, shadow and glow. By understanding these primordial relationships, the Greeks were teaching something eternal, every aspect of life. Joy, sorrow, wakefulness, sleep, growth, decay, has a place in the cosmos. And all of it begins here, in this delicate balance between darkness and light, the very first act of creation after the void of chaos. Gaia's children. Without a partner, from the fertile stillness of chaos, Gaia, the earth, stretched wide and firm. she was no longer alone in the abstract. She had substance, presence, and a will to bring forth life. And yet, in these earliest days, she required no partner. From her own being, Gaia began to give birth to the first tangible features of the world, the very scaffolding of the cosmos. The first of her children was Uranus, the sky. He was not just a ceiling over the earth. He was a vast, arching presence, holding up the heavens and separating the infinite void above from the stability below. Uranus was the first celestial authority, a silent companion to Gaia, stretching endlessly, a dome of blue, or, in the imagination of the Greeks, the infinite beyond. Together, Gaia and Uranus formed the first embrace of earth and sky, the first cosmic couple, though not yet married in the human sense. Next, Gaia birthed the Aurea, the mountains. These were not mere rocks, but the rugged spines of the earth, towering forms that gave shape and texture to the land. In them, humans and gods alike would later find shelter, refuge, and challenge. The Aurea were symbols of endurance and strength, the unyielding backbone of the world, rising from Gaia's fertile body like sentinels guarding the balance between earth and sky. From the depths of her being, Gaia also gave rise to Pontus, the sea. He was the endless rolling waters, the first vast liquid expanse. Unlike rivers or lakes, which would come later, Pontus was primal, untamed, and infinite. He filled the gaps between mountains and lands, carving valleys and shaping continents. The sea, like the mountains, was a reflection of Gaia's own duality, both life-giving and dangerous, nurturing yet unpredictable. With Uranus above, Aurea rising, and Pontus flowing, the first physical world took form. Chaos had given way to substance, emptiness had transformed into geometry, depth, and motion. The earth had structure, the sky had limit, the seas had expanse, and the mountains pierced both land and imagination. The Greeks revered Gaia not only for what she produced, but for how she produced it. She was the eternal mother figure, a source of life, stability, and nurture. Unlike Uranus, who would later prove tyrannical, Gaia was self-sufficient, enduring, and generous. Every mountain, every valley, every wave of the sea carried a piece of her essence. Life, whether divine or mortal, could only exist because she had made the world habitable. This reverence for Gaia reflects the Greek understanding of nature itself. The earth is not a passive backdrop for human activity. It is a living, breathing entity capable of creation, punishment, and sustenance. Gaia is the foundation upon which the drama of gods, titans, and mortals will unfold. Without her, there is no sky to rule, no sea to navigate, no mountains to climb, no life to witness it. By giving birth alone, Gaia also shows the power of self-sufficiency in creation. Life does not always require a partner. It begins first from presence, persistence, and the deep force of potential waiting to unfold. And so, as the first physical forms of the cosmos settle into place, we see the stage set for the next generation of beings. The Titans, born from Gaia and Uranus, and the stories of conflict, prophecy, and the rise of the Olympians that will follow. The birth of the Titans, and the mighty beings that came alongside them, shaping the very fabric of the universe. With Gaia, the earth, firmly established, and Uranus, the sky, stretching endlessly above her, a union occurred, not gentle, not casual, but inevitable. From their coming together, the Titans were born. These were not mere children in the way we understand offspring. Each Titan was a personification of immense power, elemental force, and raw potential. They carried in their beings the very essence of the cosmos, and their names even today echo with that power. First, there was Oceanus, the boundless river that encircled the earth, carrying life and water, everywhere. He embodied the eternal flow, the currents that connect all lands and seas, and his vastness hinted at the infinite possibilities of creation. Then came Cronus, the embodiment of intellect and inquiry, the titan of the inquisitive mind. He would later become the father of Leto, the mother of Apollo and Artemis. But even in this earliest generation, he symbolized the spark of thought and awareness. Cronus, often less remembered but no less important, represented the constellations and the measure of time, the cosmic framework that organizes the heavens. Hyperion, the light of the sun and the heavenly fire, illuminated the world, setting the stage for the cycles of day and night. Iapetus, the titan of mortality and craftsmanship, hinted at the human traits that would emerge in the generations to come: labor, suffering, and skill. Among these was Cronus, the youngest but most decisive of the Titans, whose role would define the next age. He was clever, ambitious, and aware of the cosmic stakes unfolding around him. And alongside him, Rhea, the gentle yet resilient mother, whose strength and compassion would guide the next generation of gods. The other Titans included Themis, the embodiment of justice and divine order; Mnemosyne, the memory that preserved the past and gave rise to the Muses; Phoebe, shining with prophetic insight; and Tethys, the mother of rivers and nurturer of life-giving waters. Each Titan was vast, eternal, and abstract, yet also profoundly connected to the workings of the world. Together they formed the first structured family of divine power, a generation that embodied creation, intellect, order, and the elements. Yet Gaia and Uranus did not stop there. Their union also produced the Cyclopes, the one-eyed giants whose craftsmanship and power would later aid Zeus himself, and the Hecatonchires, the 100-handed giants whose strength was unmatched, representing sheer, overwhelming force. The Cyclopes embodied skill and creativity. The Hecatonchires, raw, uncontrollable might. Both were crucial to the balance of the cosmos, yet also frightening to Uranus, who feared their potential. This first generation of gods is symbolic on many levels. The Titans represent the raw, untamed power of the universe: intellect, light, time, justice, memory, water, mortality, and cosmic order. The Cyclopes and Hecatonchires remind us that power is not always gentle. It can be both creative and destructive. These beings are a reflection of the universe itself, majestic, unpredictable, and capable of awe-inspiring creation. And so, from Gaia and Uranus, the cosmos was no longer empty or still. It teemed with life, with intellect, with light and shadow, with power that could shape worlds. The stage was now set not only for creation, but for conflict, because with such might and individuality, tensions were inevitable. Uranus, the sky, would come to fear his own children, and that fear would set the stage for betrayal, rebellion, and the dramatic events that would shake the foundations of existence. The Titans are born, immense and formidable, along with the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, filling the universe with power, potential, and tension. Uranus's tyranny. We continue with a story of fear, oppression, and the earliest stirrings of rebellion in the cosmos. The tale of Uranus's tyranny. Though Uranus, the sky, was born of Gaia and stretched endlessly above the earth, he was not benevolent. In the beginning, he saw the children he had helped bring into existence, the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the Hecatonchires, not as extensions of his power, but as threats. Their potential, their raw energy, filled him with fear and hatred. He feared their strength, their might, and what they might one day do to him. So Uranus acted in cruelty. One by one, he imprisoned the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, the very beings whose hands could shape worlds and whose skill could craft wonders. He cast them deep into the pit of Tartarus, the yawning abyss beneath Gaia, where darkness reigned and freedom was denied. The 100-handed giants, who could wield incredible power, and the Cyclopes, masters of creation, were trapped, bound by fear and tyranny. Gaia, their mother, was horrified. She had nurtured these children herself, given birth to them from the fertile earth, and yet they suffered at the hands of their own father. Her distress was immense. It shook the earth itself. Imagine the pain of a mother seeing her children confined, silenced, and despised, simply for being what they were meant to be. Her groans and sorrow became part of the living earth, and from her anguish she began to plot. This is the moment where creation, power, and injustice intersect. Uranus's tyranny was not just personal cruelty. It represented the conflict between generations, between the old order and the new, between authority and potential. Chaos had birthed order in the form of Gaia and Uranus, and then that order had produced life. But life, as we see here, brings its own challenges. Potential without freedom becomes a source of tension, and Uranus's fear of losing control set the stage for the first cosmic conflict between parent and child. It's fascinating to see how this story mirrors the human experience. Power, even in the hands of the divine, can become oppressive. The very children that carry the promise of the future can inspire fear in those who cling to the past. The Greeks understood this intimately. They saw the cycles of generations, the struggle between old and new, mirrored in the heavens themselves. So the stage was set. The Titans, Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, were trapped, but not defeated. Gaia's grief festered into determination. She began to conceive a plan that would challenge Uranus, that would bring justice and rebalance the cosmos. And in the youngest of her children, Cronus, she would find an instrument for change, a being clever and bold enough to confront the tyranny of the sky. Uranus's fear, his imprisonment of the mighty first beings, and Gaia's ensuing despair created the first dramatic tension in the universe. From this point forward, creation is no longer a serene unfolding of forces. It is a drama of ambition, fear, and rebellion, a story that will echo through generations of gods and mortals alike. The Titans remain imprisoned, the universe trembles with injustice, and Gaia begins her plot, Gaia's plot, and Cronus's role. We enter a chapter of cunning, courage, and cosmic drama with the story of Gaia's plot against Uranus and the role of the youngest Titan, Cronus, in reshaping the universe. Gaia, the Earth, had watched for eons as Uranus, the sky, ruled with fear and cruelty. Her children, the Cyclopes, the Hecatoncheires, and even the Titans, suffered under his tyranny, locked away in Tartarus, denied freedom and recognition. The grief of a mother can be a quiet force, but in Gaia, it became a storm of resolve. She could not change Uranus through strength alone, for he was vast and powerful, stretching endlessly above her. She needed a plan, one that relied on cunning, courage, and the willingness of her children to act. From the fertile depths of her being, Gaia fashioned a great sickle, a weapon of unimaginable sharpness, forged not of metal, but of the earth itself, imbued with her will and the power of creation. This sickle was more than a tool. It was a symbol of justice, the instrument of change, and the first tangible weapon of divine rebellion. But Gaia could not act herself. The enormity of Uranus's power, his sheer reach, made it impossible. She needed a champion. She called her children and pleaded with them to strike against their father, to free those imprisoned in Tartarus, to restore balance to the cosmos. Many of the Titans wavered. Fear held them back. Uranus was their father, terrifying, immense, omnipresent. None could summon the courage to stand against him. All except the youngest, Cronus. Cronus was small compared to his siblings, but he was cunning, ambitious, and keenly aware of the cosmic stakes. He saw that action was necessary, that the suffering of his siblings and the injustice of Uranus's rule could not continue, and so he stepped forward. With the great sickle in hand, he accepted his mother's challenge. The tension leading up to the confrontation was immense. The cosmos seemed to hold its breath. Imagine the boundless sky above, the solid earth beneath, and the imprisoned giants crying out from Tartarus. Cronus, alone against the ruler of the heavens, stood at the threshold of history. The youngest Titan would face the seemingly invincible sky, not with armies or magic, but with cunning, bravery, and the will of the earth itself behind him. The drama was absolute, the power of creation versus the power of tyranny, youth versus age, cunning versus brute force. The universe waited, poised on the knife edge of change, as Cronus prepared to strike the first blow that would reshape existence itself. The fall of Uranus. We witness a moment of cosmic upheaval, the dramatic overthrow of Uranus, the sky, by his youngest son, Cronus. The time had come. Cronus, armed with the great sickle fashioned by Gaia herself, lay in wait. The vast expanse of Uranus stretched above, seemingly untouchable, immortal, all-encompassing. But Cronus was not deterred. With the courage of youth, the cunning of a strategist, and the will of his mother behind him, he launched his ambush. In a single, swift, and decisive act, Cronus castrated Uranus, severing the source of his father's oppressive power. The sky was defeated, his tyranny ended, and the first generation of cosmic rulers was challenged. This was not just an act of violence, it was a radical restructuring of the universe. The act symbolized the overthrow of old authority, the replacement of fear with new order, and the assertion that even the mightiest could fall. But creation never ends with destruction. As Uranus's blood fell upon Gaia, the earth, it mingled with her fertile soil and gave rise to new beings. The Erinyes, or Furies, embodiments of vengeance and justice, destined to pursue wrongdoers and uphold moral balance. The Giants, fierce and immense, representing raw power and unbridled chaos that would later challenge the gods. The Meliae, the ash tree nymphs, connected to both nurturing and the darker forces of human mortality. Even in violence, life and power were renewed. The Greeks saw in this act a profound truth, that creation and destruction are often inseparable. Power wields both the ability to harm and the ability to generate new possibilities. The fall of Uranus illustrates that the cosmos is not static or safe. It is dynamic, shaped by courage, rebellion, and the unpredictable consequences of action. The symbolic meaning here is layered. Uranus represents old authority, oppressive and omnipotent. Cronus embodies youth, cunning, and decisive action. Gaia, the earth, is the persistent source of life, guiding and empowering change. And the blood of Uranus, spilling onto Gaia, shows that even acts of violence can give birth to new forces, new stories, and new power structures. From pain comes growth, from tyranny comes the possibility of freedom, from destruction comes creation. With Uranus removed from power, Cronus ascends as the new ruler of the cosmos. Yet even as he rises, the shadows of prophecy and fear linger. For Cronus, like his father before him, will soon face the burden of foreknowledge, the chilling warning that one of his own children will one day overthrow him. The stage is now set for the next era, the reign of Cronus, the unfolding of prophecy, and the eventual rise of Zeus and the Olympians. The universe, shaped through rebellion, blood, and the will of the earth, is alive with tension, drama, and the promise of more stories yet to come. Aftermath and cosmic reordering. We continue with the story of the cosmos after the dramatic fall of Uranus. The tyrant sky has been overthrown, and the universe must adjust to a new order. With Uranus removed from power, the youngest Titan, Cronus, ascends as the new ruler of the cosmos. He takes the throne not merely through inheritance, but through cunning and decisive action, a combination of strategy and force that marks his reign. Under Cronus, the cosmos gains structure and authority. The imprisonment of the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires has ended in terms of immediate threat, though their presence remains a reminder of unbridled power lying in the depths of Tartarus. Uranus, though defeated, does not vanish entirely. He retreats, lingering at the edges of the heavens, a shadow of the old order. Tartarus, too, remains. The abyss beneath Gaia, a symbol of punishment, danger, and the consequences of cosmic violence. The universe now has layers of authority and depth. The earth below, the sky above, and the abyss below, a hierarchy that mirrors both power and potential peril. But even as Cronus rises, the seeds of prophecy begin to take root. The universe has already shown that power is never absolute. Just as Uranus was overthrown by his son, Cronus will learn that his own children may one day challenge him. The echoes of fate reverberate through the cosmos. The youngest often rise against the eldest. The oppressed eventually confront the oppressor, and history tends to repeat itself in cycles of power and rebellion. Cronus's fear of being overthrown shapes his rule, making him cautious, cunning, and sometimes cruel. This anxiety will set the stage for the dramatic saga of his children, with Rhea, his sister, and consort. Their story will be marked by prophecy, deceit, and the eventual rise of the greatest of the Olympians, Zeus. Thus the cosmos settles into its new rhythm. Gaia, the eternal mother, has seen justice done but remains vigilant. Cronus holds dominion, but his reign is shadowed by the knowledge of what is to come. Uranus retreats, Tartarus waits, and the Titans stand as the powerful first generation of gods, a reminder that creation, authority, and rebellion are forever intertwined. The stage is now perfectly set for the next act of the mythic saga, the struggle of Cronus, the protection of Rhea's children, and the dramatic birth and rise of Zeus. From this point, the story of the Titans will gradually give way to the story of the Olympians, shaping the myths that have echoed through history. Let's enter a story of fear, prophecy, and the fragile nature of power. The tale of Cronus and the foretelling of his children. Even after overthrowing Uranus and claiming the cosmos as his own, Cronus could not escape the shadows of fate. For though he now ruled the heavens and the earth, whispers of destiny began to echo in his mind. An oracle, whose words carried the weight of inevitability, came to him with a warning. One of his own children would rise against him, dethrone him, and claim the cosmos for themselves. Imagine the fear that gripped Cronus. He had seized power through cunning and force, defeating his father Uranus and assuming the throne. And yet the knowledge that his own offspring might one day overturn everything he had built filled him with paranoia. No palace, no throne, no divine might could shield him from prophecy. The warning was clear, and its certainty seemed unbreakable. Fate would find a way. Cronus's reaction was immediate and absolute. He resolved to prevent the prophecy at all costs. The seeds of fear took root in his mind, twisting his thoughts and turning what was once a clever, ambitious Titan into a ruler consumed by suspicion. Every pregnancy, every cry of birth became a threat. Every child of Rhea, his sister and consort, was a potential rival, a living challenge to his authority. The tension in Cronus's psyche is striking. Here is a god who conquered the heavens yet finds himself trapped by knowledge. He cannot undo fate, but he can act in ways he hopes will circumvent it. And so begins a reign defined not only by power, but by paranoia, preemptive cruelty, and desperate control. His fear is a mirror of human anxieties, magnified to divine proportions. The dread that one's legacy might be taken, that children may rise beyond the authority of their parent, that time itself carries justice the ruler cannot escape. This prophecy transforms Cronus from conqueror to tyrant. His mind, once focused on rulership and cosmic order, becomes obsessed with prevention. The universe now trembles not only under his authority, but under his growing suspicion, because in Greek mythology, power without trust and strength without wisdom often leads to cycles of suffering. From this moment onward, the story of Cronus is defined by the tension between fate and action, between knowledge of the inevitable and the futile attempts to prevent it. The prophecy casts a shadow over every birth, every moment of joy, and every act of creation. It is the first whisper that no power, no matter how absolute, can escape the currents of destiny. The stage is now set for Cronus' extreme solution, a horrifying strategy to swallow his children as soon as they are born, believing this will end the threat of prophecy. This act of desperation will define his reign and set in motion the drama that leads to the rise of the next generation of gods, the Olympians, and ultimately, the story of Zeus, Cronus's plan to swallow his children. We step into a story of fear, desperation, and the extremes of power, the tale of Cronus and his horrifying strategy to defy fate. The prophecy had been delivered. One of his children would rise against him, overthrow his rule, and claim the cosmos. For Cronus, the warning was not a suggestion, nor a distant possibility. It was an inevitable threat, a fate he could not ignore. And so he devised a grim solution. He would swallow each child as soon as it was born, keeping them within him so they could never grow, never challenge him, never fulfill the prophecy. Rhea, his sister and consort, watched in horror as this unfolded. Each time she gave birth, her joy was met with immediate tragedy. Cronus, driven by fear and paranoia, consumed their children whole. These were not just infants, they were embodiments of cosmic potential, the continuation of divine power, and yet they vanished, swallowed by their own father. Rhea's growing distress was profound. She loved her children, and each act of swallowing was a loss that weighed upon her heart like a crushing weight. The morality and symbolism of this act are stark. To swallow one's own children is to attempt to halt the natural flow of time, legacy, and change. Cronus's actions were extreme. Fear and the desire for control eclipsed love, reason, and acceptance. Greek mythology often uses this imagery to explore human and divine truths. Power unchecked by wisdom becomes destructive, and attempts to escape destiny can lead to horrific acts. In Cronus, we see both the desire to maintain order and the corruption that fear can bring. Yet there is also a deeper symbolic meaning. Swallowing his children was more than cruelty. It represented the absorption of potential into the present, the attempt to stop progress and growth, and the anxiety of the old generation that the new might surpass them. Cronus embodies the natural tension between parent and child, authority and succession, fear and inevitability. His actions echo a fundamental truth of the Greek worldview, that no one, not even a god, can ultimately escape fate. With each child swallowed, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, The cosmos remained under Cronus's control, but at great moral and emotional cost. The earth itself, Gaia, watched in sorrow, and Rhea's despair grew with each loss. This sets the stage for the most cunning act of defiance in Greek mythology, the birth of Zeus, the child who will escape Cronus and ultimately fulfill the prophecy. Rhea's deception and Zeus's birth. We enter a story of hope, courage, and clever defiance. The tale of Rhea's secret plan to save her youngest child, Zeus. Rhea, the mother of the gods and sister consort of Cronus, had endured unbearable sorrow. One by one, her children had been swallowed by their father, victims of his fear and paranoia. With each loss, her despair grew, but so did her determination. She could not let the prophecy fulfill itself without intervention. The universe's future depended on the survival of her next child, the one destined to challenge Cronus. And so Rhea devised a secret plan of deception. When she gave birth to her youngest son Zeus, she hid him away, often said to be on the island of Crete, far from the reach of his father. In place of the infant, she offered Cronus a substitute stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. Cronus, blinded by his fear and the predictability of his previous actions, swallowed the stone without suspicion, believing he had eliminated the threat yet again. This act of cunning was more than cleverness, it was a profound symbol of hope and resistance. Rhea's defiance shows that even in the face of overwhelming power and oppression, ingenuity and courage can alter destiny. By saving Zeus, she ensured that the cycle of prophecy would continue, but now in a way that would allow for justice, balance, and the eventual liberation of her other children. The symbolism runs deep. The hidden child represents potential waiting in secret, the spark of rebellion that grows unseen until the moment of action. The stone symbolizes illusion and deception, the tools by which the powerless can outwit the powerful. And the entire episode reflects a recurring theme in Greek mythology. Fate may be foretold, but it is often shaped through courage, cunning, and maternal protection. Zeus's birth, hidden from Cronus, marks the beginning of the next great chapter in the cosmic drama. The infant grows in secrecy, nurtured by caretakers and the earth itself, until he is ready to fulfill the prophecy. The darkness of fear and tyranny is pierced by hope and clever resistance, a promise that power, even absolute, cannot permanently suppress justice and destiny. The early years of Zeus. We continue the story with the secret upbringing of Zeus, the child who would one day challenge his father and change the fate of the universe. After Rhea successfully deceived Cronus with the stone, Zeus was whisked away from the Titan's reach. Hidden in a remote and secret location, often said to be the rugged caves of Crete, Zeus grew in safety, nurtured by divine caretakers who ensured he would survive and thrive. These guardians, often depicted as nymphs or magical creatures, fed him, protected him from harm, and instilled in him the wisdom and strength he would need for the battles ahead. The young Zeus's upbringing was anything but ordinary. He was surrounded by the rhythms of nature, the whispers of Gaia, and the guidance of loyal beings devoted to his destiny. From the very beginning, he was being prepared for a cosmic purpose, to confront Cronus, rescue his swallowed siblings, and establish the reign of the Olympian gods. Every lesson, every challenge, every hidden moment of growth was part of a divine curriculum designed to nurture both power and cunning. This period of secrecy and protection is crucial, both in myth and in symbolism. The Greeks understood that potential often requires time, patience, and careful cultivation before it can be unleashed. Zeus's hidden childhood mirrors the idea that the future cannot be forced. It must grow quietly, sometimes unseen, before it can fulfill its destiny. It also reflects a recurring theme in Greek mythology. Oppressed or threatened potential can survive through ingenuity, care, and cunning planning. Moreover, Zeus's early years established the tension between the old and new generations. While Cronus rules through fear and tyranny, Zeus grows in secrecy, embodying hope, resistance, and the inevitability of change. The universe is quietly rebalancing itself. The future is being shaped, even as the present remains dominated by fear. By the time Zeus reaches maturity, he is not only strong and wise, but also fully aware of the prophecy and his destiny. His childhood, protected and nurtured, prepares him to act decisively. The stage is set for the eventual rebellion against Cronus, the liberation of his siblings, and the dawn of the Olympian era, a new order built on courage, cunning, and the balance of power. The call to war. Now we step into one of the most dramatic and consequential chapters of Greek mythology, the Titanomachy, the great war between the gods of the old order and the rising Olympians. With Zeus grown to maturity, strong, wise, and aware of his destiny, the time had come to confront Cronus and free the siblings swallowed at birth. The first step was bold and decisive. Zeus would release the imprisoned gods. Guided by the cunning and knowledge he had gained during his hidden upbringing, he sought out the key to overturning the tyranny of his father and establishing a new era. Using his strength, intellect, and the assistance of Gaia in some versions of the myth, Zeus liberated Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, freeing them from Cronus's stomach. Imagine the relief and power contained in that moment. Siblings reunited after years of captivity, their full divine energy now unleashed upon the universe. These were no ordinary children. Each god embodied tremendous cosmic power and potential, ready to claim their place in the unfolding drama. With his siblings free, Zeus began the careful formation of the Olympian alliance. This was not merely a family reunion. It was the foundation of a coordinated force meant to challenge the very first generation of gods, the Titans. Every god brought unique strengths to the table. Hades with dominion over the underworld, Poseidon with command over the seas, Hera with authority and strategy, Demeter with life-giving and sustaining powers, and Hestia with the sacred hearth's stabilizing influence. Together with Zeus's leadership, the Olympians were a cohesive force, a perfect blend of strength, intellect, and divine energy. Yet the stakes could not have been higher. The Titans, the first generation of gods, still held immense power. Cronus himself, once a cunning and ambitious Titan, had now entrenched himself as a seasoned and fearful ruler. Titans like Oceanus, Hyperion, Iapetus, and Caius were colossal and strategic, each embodying elemental or cosmic forces beyond mortal comprehension. The tension between these generations of gods was palpable, the air of destiny thick with anticipation. This was not just a war of might, it was a war of cosmic principles, pitting the old order of raw, primordial power against the new order of cunning, cooperation, and fate-driven leadership. As the Olympians prepared, every moment was laden with suspense. The universe seemed to pause, awaiting the clash that would define the structure of the cosmos for all eternity. The very heavens and the earth trembled in anticipation, the imprisoned Hecaton, Kairos, and Cyclopes watching from the depths, the Titans readying themselves with centuries of experience and unmatched might. The balance of power, the stakes of destiny, and the momentum of prophecy all converged at this critical juncture. And so, with alliances forged, siblings reunited, and the weight of fate pressing on them, the Olympians took their place on the battlefield, prepared to challenge the Titans and claim the cosmos. The war had begun, a conflict of immense scale, where strategy, brute strength, divine power, and destiny itself would collide. The Titans' power and the early battles. Hey guys, tonight we dive into the early battles of the Titanomachy, where the first generation of gods demonstrates their immense might and cunning. The Titans, born of Gaia and Uranus, were colossal beings, each embodying elemental or cosmic forces. When Zeus and the Olympians challenged them, the Titans were fully prepared to defend their dominance. Their strategy was not mere brute force, it was the combination of raw strength, experience, and the control of natural and cosmic powers. They had ruled for eons and understood the universe's rhythms better than the young Olympians, making the first moments of battle particularly dangerous. Among them, Oceanus, the vast river encircling the earth, could flood and engulf, using the very waters of the cosmos as both shield and weapon. Cronus, the Titan of intellect, guided the Titans' strategy, anticipating moves and countering Zeus's initial plans. Hyperion, embodying heavenly light, was a blinding force in battle, illuminating and scorching the battlefield with the power of the sun. Iapetus, associated with mortality and endurance, brought relentless persistence, striking with blows that symbolized both strength and the inevitability of fate. And of course, Cronus, once clever enough to overthrow Uranus, now led with calculated authority, wielding his experience, raw might, and fearsome presence to keep the Olympians in check. In these early clashes, the Titans held the advantage. Their centuries of experience, mastery of elemental forces, and sheer overwhelming power initially pushed the Olympians back. Zeus, though clever and strong, found himself and his siblings tested like never before. Every strike of Hyperion's light, every surge of Oceanus's waters, every calculated maneuver of Cronus reminded the young gods of the immense challenge of overthrowing an established order. Yet the Titans' advantage was not absolute. While they were masters of cosmic might, they lacked the unity, adaptability, and cunning of the Olympians. And here, the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires became decisive players. Freed from Tartarus by Zeus prior to the battles, these colossal beings brought a terrifying new element to the fray. The Cyclopes, one-eyed masters of craft and weaponry, began forging weapons of extraordinary power, including the thunderbolt for Zeus. Their precision and skill transformed the Olympians from underdogs into formidable challengers. Meanwhile, the Hecatonchires, with their 100 hands and unmatched strength, could hurl boulders, wield multiple weapons simultaneously, and overwhelm the Titans' formations. Their presence turned the tide of initial skirmishes, reminding both sides that raw power alone does not guarantee victory. Clever strategy and coordinated force could challenge even the mightiest of Titans. The early battles of the Titanomachy were a mix of awe-inspiring spectacle and intense tension. The Titans displayed their primordial mastery, but the Olympians, guided by Zeus's leadership and aided by the freed giants, began to adapt, counter, and prepare for the turning point in this monumental war. The stage was set for the Olympians to seize initiative, and the balance of power was about to shift dramatically. Zeus and the Olympian strategy. Now we witness the pivotal moment in the Titanomachy, where the young Olympians, guided by Zeus's intelligence and leadership, begin to challenge the overwhelming might of the Titans. Zeus, though younger and less experienced than the Titans, possessed a keen mind, unshakable courage, and the ability to inspire unity among his siblings. Unlike the Titans, who relied primarily on brute strength and centuries of dominance, Zeus understood the value of strategy, innovation, and coordinated action. He observed the battlefield, noted the strengths and weaknesses of his opponents, and devised a plan that would exploit the Titans' overconfidence and rigidity. A key element of Zeus's strategy was the freed Cyclopes. These one-eyed giants, previously imprisoned in Tartarus by Uranus, were master craftsmen, capable of forging divine weapons of incredible power. Recognizing their potential, Zeus allied with them, and they created for him the thunderbolt, a weapon unlike any other in the cosmos. This thunderbolt was more than a tool of war. It was a symbol of authority, divine justice, and unstoppable force, channeling Zeus's power and granting him the means to challenge the Titans directly. Armed with the thunderbolt and guided by his clever tactics, Zeus began to turn the tide of the battles. He coordinated attacks among his siblings, leveraging their unique abilities in a combined strategy that the Titans had not anticipated. Poseidon's mastery of the seas created strategic advantages and disruptions. Hades wielded the forces of the underworld to strike unexpectedly. Hera, Demeter, and Hestia provided critical support, maintaining cohesion, morale, and precision in the fray. The Olympians' rise in the battle was dramatic. What had initially seemed an impossible conflict, the young gods versus the immortal Titans, now became a contest of ingenuity, coordination, and divine ingenuity. Zeus's leadership demonstrated that raw power alone does not determine victory. Foresight, collaboration, and the creative use of resources could challenge even the most ancient and mighty beings. As the Olympians pressed forward, the Titans began to falter. They had underestimated the ingenuity of youth and the resolve of those fighting not just for conquest, but for freedom, justice, and the fulfillment of prophecy. Each thunderbolt hurled by Zeus was a strike not only of physical force, but of cosmic significance, signaling the shift of destiny from the old order to the new. In this stage of the Titanomachy, the universe witnessed the combination of experience versus innovation, strength versus strategy, and tyranny versus justice. The battles raged on, but the momentum was slowly, inevitably, tilting toward the Olympians, setting the stage for the eventual fall of the Titans and the rise of a new cosmic order. The fall of the Titans, now we witness the defeat of the Titans, the monumental turning point that reshaped the universe and established the reign of the Olympian gods. After a long and brutal war, the tides of battle finally turned decisively in favor of Zeus and the Olympians. The cunning leadership of Zeus, combined with the power of his siblings and the weapons forged by the freed Cyclopes, particularly the mighty thunderbolt, allowed the younger gods to overcome the Titans' centuries of experience and raw cosmic power. Each strike, each maneuver, highlighted the strength of coordination, strategy, and the unity of purpose over mere brute force. Key moments marked the Titans' downfall. The Titans who had once dominated the universe, Oceanus with his vast rivers, Hyperion with his blazing light, and Cronus himself, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. Even Cronus, who had once overthrown his father Uranus, could not withstand the combination of Zeus's cunning, the coordinated assaults of the Olympians, and the devastating power of the thunderbolt. One by one, the Titans were defeated, driven back, and stripped of their ability to challenge the new order. The culmination of this conflict was the imprisonment of the Titans in Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath the earth. Bound and confined, these ancient gods were removed from the struggle for power, their influence limited, and the cosmos finally stabilized under Olympian rule. Tartarus, already a place of punishment and depth, became a symbol of the consequences of rebellion and defeat, a reminder that even the mightiest must answer to fate and order. The fall of the Titans carries profound symbolic meaning. It represents the triumph of a new generation, the inevitability of change, and the establishment of cosmic order over chaos. The universe is no longer ruled by unchecked primordial power, but by gods who combine strength, wisdom, and strategic thought. Victory here is not merely military, it is ideological. The assertion that cooperation, intelligence, and foresight can overcome raw force, and that succession and progress are essential elements of existence. With the Titans defeated and imprisoned, Zeus and his siblings assumed control of the cosmos. The Olympians' victory signals a new age, a universe organized under the principles of justice, balance, and divine governance, yet still vibrant with the potential for conflict, drama, and the unfolding of fate. The story of the Titans' defeat sets the stage for the Olympians' interactions with humans, the rise of Prometheus, and the mythic events that define Greek mythology. Aftermath and cosmic balance. Now we explore the aftermath of the Great Titanomachy, the cosmic war that redefined the universe and established the Olympians as the ruling generation of gods. With the Titans defeated and imprisoned in Tartarus, Zeus emerged as the supreme ruler of the cosmos. But victory was not simply about domination, it was also about organization and balance. To prevent future strife and to ensure the universe remained stable, Zeus divided the realms among his siblings. Poseidon claimed dominion over the seas, his trident wielding the power to stir storms and calm oceans alike. Hades took charge of the underworld, ruling over the dead and the mysterious forces beneath the earth. Other Olympians like Hera, Demeter, and Hestia maintained their domains of marriage, agriculture, and the hearth, respectively, providing stability and harmony across the cosmos. This division of power ensured that the universe was not only ruled, but governed with purpose and order. Yet the Titans were not entirely erased from the cosmos. Their presence in Tartarus remained a perpetual reminder of raw, primordial power, a threat that could not be ignored, a caution that even the new order must remain vigilant. In mythology, this lingering potential danger symbolizes the balance between past and present, strength and wisdom, chaos and order. The Olympians' triumph was decisive, but it was not absolute domination. It was the careful management of a universe still full of unpredictable forces. The transition from the Age of Titans to the Age of Olympians marked more than a generational shift. It was a transformation in the principles governing the cosmos, from raw, instinctual power to strategic, organized leadership. From fear-driven rule to a combination of authority and foresight, from the tyranny of unchecked strength to the establishment of justice, order, and divine governance. The universe now had structure, yet retained the tension, drama, and dynamism that make myth so compelling. This new era also set the stage for the next great stories of Greek mythology, tales that explore the relationship between gods and humans, power and rebellion, curiosity and consequence. Among these are the stories of Prometheus, the bringer of fire, Pandora, the first woman whose actions have profound consequences for humanity, and the complex, often unpredictable ways humans interact with the divine, the foundation laid by the Olympians. Victory ensures that these stories unfold against a universe ruled by a new order, yet still brimming with drama, conflict, and cosmic intrigue. The Titanomachy, then, is not merely a tale of war. It is a story of succession, strategy, and balance, demonstrating how the universe moves from chaos to order, from the raw power of the past to the structured dominion of the future. With Zeus and the Olympians established, the cosmos is ready for its next chapters, where intelligence, cunning, and curiosity will shape both gods and humans alike. Consolidation of power. Now we dive into the story of how the Olympians rose to fully establish their dominion over the cosmos, moving from victory in war to structured rule. With the Titans defeated and imprisoned in Tartarus, Zeus emerged as the undisputed king of the gods. His victory was not just martial, it was political and symbolic. Unlike Cronus or Uranus before him, Zeus understood that ruling the cosmos required more than sheer force. It required organization, laws, and a clear hierarchy. To solidify his authority, he began by dividing power among his siblings. ensuring that each had a realm in which they could exercise control while maintaining allegiance to him as supreme ruler. Poseidon was granted dominion over the seas, wielding his trident to shape oceans, rivers, and storms. His command over water symbolized both freedom and unpredictability, reflecting the boundless and sometimes volatile nature of the seas. Hades took charge of the underworld, governing the realm of the dead and the hidden forces beneath the earth. His domain reinforced the necessity of boundaries and balance, as death and the unseen world are fundamental to cosmic order. Among the Olympians who remained with the living world, Hera, Zeus's sister and consort, oversaw marriage, family, and social bonds, reinforcing cohesion among gods and humans alike. Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, ensured the cycles of fertility, growth, and sustenance. Hestia, the guardian of the hearth, maintained the sacred fire and symbolized stability, domesticity, and the unity of home and community. By dividing responsibilities in this way, Zeus established a structured, interdependent hierarchy, balancing freedom with control, power with responsibility. But consolidation of power was not merely practical, it carried profound symbolic meaning. The chaos of the Titanomachy, with its violence, uncertainty, and upheaval, was now replaced with order, law, and governance. The universe had shifted from a battleground of raw, primordial forces to a structured cosmos where authority, justice, and divine oversight prevailed. This transition illustrates a fundamental theme in Greek mythology. From destruction comes creation, from conflict comes balance, and from fear comes wisdom. Zeus also set rules, decrees, and expectations for both gods and mortals. His leadership embodied justice tempered by mercy, strategy paired with might, and foresight that ensured the stability of the new age. In doing so, he demonstrated that leadership requires vision, not merely strength, and that true authority combines power with responsibility. The consolidation of power also created the framework for future stories. It was during this period that the Olympians' relationships, alliances, and rivalries were fully established, setting the stage for divine interventions in human affairs. The myths of Prometheus and Pandora and the epic tales of heroes guided or challenged by the gods. In essence, the rise of the Olympians marks the transition from chaos and war to structured cosmic order, a universe now ruled by a generation of gods who are not only powerful, but also organized, strategic, and deeply intertwined with the fate of the cosmos itself. The victory in battle has evolved into a stable reign, one that balances power, justice, and the ever-present tension between freedom and authority. Internal dynamics of the Olympians. Now we delve into the relationships and personalities of the Olympian gods, exploring how their alliances, conflicts, and interactions shaped the newly established order of the cosmos. Even after the Titanomachy, the Olympians were far from a harmonious family. Zeus, as king, held ultimate authority, but maintaining balance among siblings, consorts, and allies required diplomacy, negotiation, and occasionally restraint. His marriage to Hera, his sister and queen, was a central relationship of the new order, combining authority, loyalty, and complex personal dynamics. Their union represented the intertwining of power and domestic stability, but it was also fraught with tension, jealousy, and conflict, themes that recur throughout Greek mythology. Other relationships among the Olympians were equally complex. Poseidon, god of the seas, was powerful yet temperamental, often clashing with Zeus in both temperament and ambition, though ultimately loyal to the divine hierarchy. Hades, ruler of the underworld, was more solitary, preferring his domain beneath the earth and rarely intervening in conflicts above. Yet his presence was vital, and his stern, unyielding nature provided balance to the more impulsive gods. Demeter, goddess of fertility and agriculture, maintained close bonds with her daughter Persephone and other deities concerned with growth and sustenance. Hestia, guardian of the hearth, played a stabilizing role, quietly maintaining harmony among the gods and serving as a moral and domestic anchor. These relationships were not static. Alliances shifted, tempers flared, and divine negotiations were constant, a reflection of human-like personalities writ on a cosmic scale. The Olympians' personalities were as varied as their domains. Zeus was strategic, ambitious, and sometimes capricious, balancing leadership with personal desire. Hera embodied authority, vigilance, and assertiveness, often acting as both counselor and challenger to Zeus. Poseidon's volatility mirrored the unpredictable nature of the seas, while Demeter's nurturing strength reflected the sustaining power of nature itself. Hades' stoicism and detachment reminded all gods of the inevitability of death and consequence. Even minor Olympians brought unique traits that influenced divine politics, strategy, and mythic storytelling. Conflicts and negotiations were frequent. Disputes over authority, personal grievances, and differing visions of justice and morality shaped both the internal dynamics of Olympus and its interactions with mortals. Yet these tensions also strengthened the Olympians' governance. By balancing personalities, resolving disputes, and forming alliances when necessary, the gods maintained order in the cosmos, preventing the kind of chaos that had marked the era of the Titans. This rich tapestry of relationships shows that the Olympians were not just powerful rulers, they were characters with depth, flaws, and motivations, mirroring human behavior while embodying cosmic forces. Their interactions create the backdrop for countless myths, from divine interventions in human affairs to epic tales of heroism, cunning, and retribution. In essence, the internal dynamics of the Olympians illustrate that power alone does not sustain order. Wisdom, negotiation, loyalty, and even conflict management are crucial in maintaining harmony, lessons that resonate both in myth and in the human imagination. The gods, in their strengths and weaknesses, set the stage for stories of moral consequence, divine justice, and the ever-unfolding interaction between heaven and earth. The Olympians and the human world, now we step into the realm where the gods of Olympus begin to touch human lives, influencing mortals with their power, wisdom, and, at times, caprice. With the cosmos firmly under their control, the Olympians turn their attention to the world of humanity. Unlike the Titans, who were primarily concerned with cosmic order and elemental forces, the Olympians engaged directly with mortals, teaching, testing, rewarding, and punishing them. These interactions established a pattern of divine oversight, shaping the moral and social fabric of human civilization, while reminding mortals that the gods watched over them. Some gods bestowed gifts to humanity. Demeter, goddess of agriculture, ensured that crops would grow and seasons would sustain life, teaching humans the cycles of planting and harvest. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategy, offered guidance in craftsmanship, warfare, and governance, empowering humans with knowledge and practical skills. These gifts were not merely practical, they were lessons in balance, responsibility, and ingenuity, showing that human effort combined with divine favor could achieve great things. Other interactions served as punishments and warnings. Zeus, as king of the gods, upheld justice and moral order, often punishing hubris, deceit, or impiety with storms, lightning, or other calamities. Hera, Artemis, and Apollo were similarly active in ensuring humans respected the natural order, familial bonds, and social norms. Through these actions, the Olympians established a moral framework, demonstrating that the cosmos was guided not only by power, but by justice and accountability. The myths of early Olympian human interaction were rich with teaching moments. Stories like Prometheus giving fire to humanity, or mortals facing consequences for arrogance, reinforce the idea that humans existed within a structured universe, one where divine authority provided guidance, consequences, and protection. Mortals learned that the gods were deeply entwined with their world, shaping both their fortunes and their moral choices. These interactions also illustrate a central theme. The Olympians are both distant and intimately involved. They rule from Olympus, yet their influence reaches every field, hearth, and home. Through gifts, challenges, and interventions, the gods maintained a dynamic relationship with humanity, one that balanced freedom with oversight, potential with guidance, and action with consequence. In essence, the Olympians' engagement with humans established the pattern of divine interaction that would define Greek mythology. Gods as teachers, enforcers, and sometimes tricksters, whose actions shaped the destiny, morality, and culture of mankind. This framework set the stage for legendary tales of rebellion, ingenuity, and consequence, from Prometheus and the theft of fire to Pandora and the origin of human suffering. Olympians' legacy and influence. Now we look at the lasting impact of the Olympian gods, not just as rulers of the cosmos, but as enduring figures who shaped human culture, morality, and imagination. After consolidating their power and interacting with humanity, the Olympians became central to rituals, festivals, and sacred spaces that honored their influence. Temples were built in their names, where mortals could offer sacrifices, prayers, and thanks. Festivals like the Olympic Games celebrated Zeus's glory, blending athletic competition with religious devotion, while agricultural rituals honored Demeter, ensuring that humans remained connected to the cycles of nature and divine favor. Even the hearth, sacred to Hestia, became a focal point of domestic worship, representing stability, family, and the moral order of society. Through these rituals, the Olympians were woven into the everyday lives of mortals, their presence both revered and respected. Beyond worship, the Olympians served as archetypes of power, wisdom, and virtue. Zeus embodied authority tempered by justice. Athena represented wisdom, strategy, and skillful action. Apollo exemplified harmony, prophecy, and enlightenment, and Hera reflected loyalty, vigilance, and the sanctity of family. Each god carried symbolic meaning, offering moral lessons, warnings, and inspiration to both mortals and fellow gods. Their personalities and domains provided a framework for understanding human behavior, societal norms, and the balance between freedom, responsibility, and divine guidance. The rise of the Olympians also created the backdrop for some of the most famous myths in Greek tradition. Prometheus, the Titan who defied Zeus to give fire to humanity, highlights the tension between divine authority and human progress. Pandora, crafted by the gods and given to humans, illustrates the consequences of curiosity, disobedience, and the introduction of suffering into the world. The interactions between gods and mortals set the stage for countless heroic myths, where humans navigated challenges under divine guidance, judgment, or opposition, learning lessons that resonated across generations. In essence, the Olympians' legacy is twofold. They established a stable cosmic and moral order, ruling the heavens, seas, and underworld with wisdom and power. At the same time, they became living symbols, shaping human culture, morality, and imagination. Their rise from war to governance created a universe rich with narrative potential, a cosmos where gods and humans could interact, and where the consequences of action, intelligence, and morality could be vividly explored. Through worship, myth, and storytelling, the Olympians ensured that their influence would endure, providing the foundation for the moral, cultural, and narrative traditions of ancient Greece, and leaving us with stories that continue to captivate, teach, and inspire. Prometheus, the Titan of forethought. Now we explore. Prometheus, the Titan whose name means forethought, and whose story is a testament to intelligence, cunning, and moral courage. Prometheus was one of the younger Titans, yet unlike many of his siblings, he was not consumed with the pursuit of power or domination. Instead, he possessed extraordinary wisdom, a deep understanding of the cosmos, and, most importantly, a profound concern for humanity. While the Olympians had claimed dominion over the universe and the Titans had been largely imprisoned, Prometheus remained a figure of foresight, able to see not only the consequences of actions, but also the potential of creation and innovation. From the very beginning, Prometheus stood apart because of his intelligence and cunning. He was a master strategist, capable of outthinking even the gods at times, and he often used his cleverness to challenge authority when it conflicted with what he believed was right. This trait would define his mythic narrative, a being whose foresight allowed him to act in ways that were both bold and morally complex. Unlike many figures in mythology who are either entirely obedient or entirely rebellious, Prometheus embodies a nuanced combination of loyalty, defiance, and vision, making him a uniquely humanized Titan in many ways. Prometheus also became deeply concerned with the plight of humanity. Early humans were vulnerable, frail, and lacking the means to protect themselves or thrive. Prometheus saw their potential and recognized that with the right guidance, knowledge, tools, and courage, humanity could rise above mere survival and step into the light of civilization. In this sense, he became a protector and mentor, championing a species that was small and powerless against both natural forces and divine authority. Symbolically, Prometheus represents several enduring themes in Greek thought. Foresight. His very name emphasizes the power of planning, anticipation, and vision. The ability to see the consequences of action before they unfold. Intelligence. He demonstrates that cunning and strategy can challenge even the mightiest powers, suggesting that intellect can rival raw strength. Rebellion. By choosing to act in defiance of Zeus later on, Prometheus becomes a symbol of moral courage, the willingness to challenge authority for the greater good. Humanism. Unlike many gods and titans, his loyalty is to humanity, highlighting compassion, advocacy, and the nurturing of potential. Prometheus' Dane's story sets the stage for one of mythology's most famous acts, the theft of fire from Olympus, a daring and dangerous defiance that would forever alter the relationship between gods and humans. This act, born from foresight, cunning, and compassion, would establish him as a legendary figure of both consequence and inspiration, whose legacy continues to resonate through stories of knowledge, innovation, and the struggle against oppression. Humanity before fire. Now we step into the early world of humanity, before the warm glow of fire had ever touched their lives. This was a time of hardship, vulnerability, and dependence, where survival was a daily struggle, and every challenge was magnified by the absence of one of civilization's most essential tools. Without fire, early humans faced a harsh existence. Nights were dark and perilous, leaving them exposed to wild animals, harsh weather, and the unknown. Cold could claim life easily, and warmth was rare, fleeting, and entirely dependent on natural sources. They had no means to cook food, which limited nutrition and made survival even more precarious. They could not forge tools or craft weapons from metal, relying instead on basic stone implements that offered little protection or efficiency. Every meal, every shelter, every moment of safety was a constant struggle. This era of human existence also had moral and symbolic undertones in Greek mythology. Mortals were entirely at the mercy of the gods, highlighting a fundamental imbalance between divine and human power. Their vulnerability was not only physical but existential. Humans depended on divine favor for protection, sustenance, and guidance. They could not shape their own destiny, and yet the gods watched, sometimes intervening, sometimes indifferent, and sometimes capricious. The stakes of fire then were immense. Fire was far more than warmth or a tool. It was a symbol of knowledge, civilization, and empowerment. With fire, humans could cook food, forge metal, illuminate the dark, and defend themselves. It was the spark that would allow them to move from mere survival to creativity, innovation, and progress. Without it, humanity remained small, weak, and reliant on external forces, unable to rise above instinct and circumstance. Prometheus, seeing this plight, understood that humanity's potential was being stifled by their vulnerability. Their struggles illustrated the broader moral lesson of the time. Knowledge and tools are essential for growth, but access to them was controlled by the powerful, in this case, the gods. Humanity's dependence highlighted the tension between divine authority and mortal aspiration, setting the stage for a dramatic intervention that would challenge Zeus himself. The world before fire was cold, dark, and precarious, yet it also carried the promise of transformation. It was a world poised on the edge of possibility, waiting for a spark, both literal and symbolic, that would ignite human progress. This is the moment where Prometheus's foresight and courage would come into play, bridging the gap between divine power and human potential. The theft of fire. Now we witness Prometheus's daring defiance, the act that would etch his name into legend and ignite the progress of human civilization. Prometheus, the titan of foresight and cunning, could not bear to see humanity languish in darkness and vulnerability. Humans, frail and cold, were incapable of defending themselves, forging tools, or cultivating a meaningful existence. Seeing their plight, Prometheus devised a plan that was both bold and dangerous. He would steal fire from Olympus, the sacred flame of the gods, and give it to mortals. This was no ordinary theft. Fire was a symbol of divine authority, controlled and jealously guarded by Zeus himself. To take it meant defying the king of the gods, risking wrath, punishment, and eternal suffering. Yet Prometheus, his foresight told him that the gift of fire was worth the risk, a tool that could elevate humanity from helplessness to self-reliance, from survival to civilization. Cunning and resourceful, Prometheus executed his plan. Some versions tell of him hiding the fire in a hollow fennel stalk or sneaking embers away in secret. Through cleverness and stealth, he bypassed the watchful eyes of Zeus and the other Olympians, bringing the first spark of fire to humanity. This act was more than a physical theft. It was a transfer of divine knowledge, power, and potential from the realm of gods to the mortal world. The symbolism of this act is profound. Fire represents knowledge and intelligence. The spark allows humans to think, create, and innovate, technology and progress. With fire, mortals can cook food, forge metal, and build shelters, marking the dawn of civilization. Empowerment and independence. Humans are no longer completely at the mercy of nature or the gods. They gain agency and tools to shape their destiny. Rebellion and moral courage. Prometheus' defiance embodies the idea that challenging authority can serve a higher, noble purpose. Through this daring act, Prometheus becomes not just a benefactor, but a symbol of hope and progress, bridging the divine and mortal worlds. He demonstrates that knowledge is transformative, that courage can challenge even the mightiest, and that foresight can alter the course of history. Yet this gift came with consequences. Defying Zeus meant that punishment was inevitable, and Prometheus would soon face the wrath of the king of gods. The theft of fire, therefore, is both a triumph and a harbinger, a story that teaches that progress and knowledge are rarely without risk, and that courage and foresight often require great sacrifice, punishment, and consequences. Now we witness the price of defiance as Prometheus faces the wrath of Zeus for daring to give fire and hope to humanity. Zeus, enraged by Prometheus's audacity, sought to punish the Titan in a way that would be eternal and unforgettable. Prometheus was chained to a remote rock in the Caucasus Mountains, bound with unbreakable bonds forged by divine will. Each day, an eagle, a creature of Zeus himself, descended to feast upon his liver, which would regrow each night, ensuring that Prometheus's torment was endless. This cycle of suffering became a vivid symbol of the cost of defying authority, even for a noble purpose. The punishment is rich in symbolism. First, it emphasizes the absolute power of the gods and the consequences of challenging divine law. Zeus's wrath demonstrates that even foresight, courage, and intelligence do not exempt one from the consequences of rebellion. At the same time, the severity of Prometheus's torment highlights the moral tension between justice and compassion, raising questions about authority, ethics, and the responsibility of the powerful. Prometheus himself embodies the noble rebel, a being who willingly endures suffering for the sake of others. His torment illustrates the philosophical theme of sacrifice for progress. By giving fire to humanity, he transforms their world, but incurs a cost that is uniquely his own. This teaches that knowledge, empowerment, and enlightenment are rarely free. Advancement often demands courage, perseverance, and endurance in the face of danger. From a moral perspective, Prometheus challenges the rigid hierarchy of the gods, suggesting that moral courage and foresight can outweigh mere obedience. His punishment serves as both warning and inspiration. Warning that rebellion has consequences, but inspiration that righteousness and compassion can justify even the most perilous defiance. Philosophers and storytellers through the ages have seen in Prometheus a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and the pursuit of knowledge in the face of authority. Even in chains, Prometheus's spirit is unbroken. His suffering ensures that the story endures as a lesson about the balance between authority and moral responsibility, the cost of enlightenment, and the enduring struggle between freedom and power. It reminds us that progress often comes with sacrifice, but that sacrifice can transform the world for the better. Legacy of Prometheus. Now we explore the legacy of Prometheus, the Titan whose foresight and courage changed the course of human history forever. Prometheus' gift of fire did more than warm humanity's homes or cook their food. It ignited civilization itself. With fire, humans could forge tools and weapons, create art, shape metal, and cultivate the land more effectively. Fire became a symbol of knowledge, progress, and cultural advancement, empowering humans to rise above mere survival and explore innovation, creativity, and complex society. Prometheus transformed mortals from vulnerable beings into active participants in their own destiny, granting them the tools to thrive. The impact of Prometheus's gift resonated through mythology and culture. Heroes like Heracles and Perseus, as well as humans striving to achieve greatness, benefited from the legacy of foresight, skill, and empowerment that fire represents. The stories of Prometheus also influenced the creation of other myths, particularly those involving divine-human interaction, rebellion, or the pursuit of knowledge. His tale illustrates the dynamic tension between gods and mortals, authority and morality, power and responsibility. Symbolically, Prometheus embodies hope, resilience, and foresight. His act of defiance teaches that knowledge is both a gift and a responsibility, that progress often comes with risk and sacrifice, and that the pursuit of enlightenment requires courage in the face of oppression. Even chained and tormented, he represents the enduring struggle for understanding and the human desire to transcend limitations. Prometheus's story also set the stage for later myths of consequence, such as Pandora and the origin of human suffering, which highlight that the gifts of knowledge and power are intertwined with responsibility, challenge, and moral consequence. The Titans' foresight ensured that humanity could wield the tools of civilization, but also that they would face choices, lessons, and consequences along the way. In essence, Prometheus's legacy is the spark that lights both the human mind and spirit. He reminds us that foresight, courage, and compassion can challenge authority, transform society, and leave a lasting impact. Through him, Greek mythology teaches that knowledge is precious, progress is earned, and even in the shadow of suffering, hope and ingenuity endure. The creation of Pandora. Now we explore Pandora, a figure whose story intertwines divine cunning, human curiosity, and the introduction of suffering into the world. After Prometheus defied Zeus by stealing fire for humanity, the king of the gods was furious. Humanity had gained a powerful tool, a spark of independence and progress, and Zeus sought retribution. His plan was to create a being who could serve as both a blessing and a subtle curse, someone whose beauty and cleverness would captivate, yet whose actions would bring consequences. This being would be Pandora, the first woman. Zeus ordered Hephaestus, the divine smith, to fashion her from clay. With skill and care, Hephaestus molded her form, giving her lifelike features, graceful movements, and a presence that could charm any being, mortal or divine. But she was no ordinary creation. Each Olympian god endowed her with unique gifts. Athena gave her wisdom and skill in crafts, Aphrodite bestowed beauty and allure, Hermes provided cunning and persuasion, and other gods added traits that made her irresistible yet complex. The result was a being whose very existence combined charm, intelligence, and latent unpredictability. Pandora's traits are highly symbolic. Her beauty and charm represent attraction and desire, illustrating the power of allure in both divine and human affairs. Her cunning reflects intelligence and curiosity, qualities that can be beneficial or dangerous depending on how they are wielded. And her very creation as a gift from the gods symbolizes the intertwining of blessings and consequences, a recurring theme in Greek mythology. What appears wonderful can carry hidden risks. Through Pandora, the myths explore the delicate balance between divine will and human curiosity, showing how the gods' intentions intersect with human behavior and choice. She is a mirror of the human condition, drawn to knowledge, beauty, and exploration, yet capable of unleashing unforeseen consequences. Her creation marks the beginning of a new chapter in mythology, one where mortals must navigate gifts that are as perilous as they are empowering. Pandora, crafted with divine foresight and intricate skill, stands ready to enter the human world, a being who embodies both promise and peril, curiosity and consequence. Her story sets the stage for the infamous jar she will carry, and the profound changes her actions will bring to humanity. The gift and the jar. Now we explore the moment when Pandora is entrusted with a mysterious container, a gift from the gods that would forever change humanity. After her creation, Zeus presented Pandora to the world, but along with her beauty and charm came a carefully calculated instrument of divine testing, a jar sometimes described as a box, which contained all the evils of the world. This jar was no ordinary object. It symbolized both divine authority and moral consequence. Within it were plagues, sorrows, diseases, and hardships, hidden from humans but poised to enter their lives if Pandora's curiosity could not be restrained. Zeus's instructions were clear yet provocative. Pandora was not to open the jar, a warning designed to test her obedience, judgment, and self-control. For the gods, the jar served a dual purpose. It was a punishment for humanity, reminding them that their transgression, Prometheus's theft of fire, carried consequences. It was also a test of human and divine curiosity, exploring the tension between desire for knowledge and respect for boundaries. The jar itself is rich in symbolic meaning. Divine testing. It represents the limits imposed by authority and the moral framework within which humans must operate. Temptation. Its very presence evokes curiosity, highlighting the human and divine impulse to explore the unknown, even against warning. Moral consequence. The jar demonstrates that actions, particularly those driven by curiosity or desire, can unleash unforeseen consequences that affect not only the individual, but the broader world. Through the gift of the jar, the gods illustrate a central theme in Greek mythology. Knowledge, temptation, and moral choice are intertwined. Humanity is endowed with potential, but that potential comes with responsibility. The container embodies the tension between power and restraint, between curiosity and obedience, between desire and consequence. Pandora, gifted with intelligence, beauty, and cunning, now faces a challenge that tests not only her nature, but also the broader destiny of humankind. The jar, closed but tantalizing, is a symbol of everything that awaits beyond obedience and self-restraint, suffering, growth, and the profound lessons that come from navigating the balance between curiosity and caution. This moment sets the stage for the next dramatic chapter. Pandora. Curiosity, leading to the release of evils into the world, a turning point that explains human suffering and the enduring struggle between knowledge and consequence. Pandora's curiosity and the release of evils. Now we witness the pivotal moment when Pandora opens the jar, an act that introduces suffering, mortality, and misfortune into the human experience. Despite the warnings of Zeus and the instructions she had been given, Pandora's curiosity, a reflection of both human nature and her divine traits, proved irresistible. Drawn to the mysterious jar, she lifted its lid, unaware of the full consequences of her actions. In an instant, the contents of the jar spilled forth. Disease, pain, toil, sorrow, and every form of misfortune that could afflict humanity. The world, once simpler and less burdened, was now marked by challenges that would test courage, resilience, and morality. This act explains, in mythological terms, why suffering exists in the human world. Illness, hardship, and the inevitability of death are seen as the result of divine decree, a reminder of human vulnerability and the limits of mortal power. The story illustrates that even well-intentioned actions or innocent curiosity can have profound consequences, a lesson woven deeply into Greek moral thinking. Pandora's opening of the jar also underscores a central theme of mythology, the duality of gifts and consequences. Just as Prometheus's fire brought progress and empowerment, Pandora's jar brought challenges and adversity. Life, in this view, is a balance between blessings and trials, a dynamic interplay that requires wisdom, foresight, and perseverance. The narrative also reflects the human condition. Curiosity, desire for knowledge, and the impulse to explore are intrinsic traits, but they come with responsibilities. Pandora, endowed with intelligence and cunning, mirrors the mortal experience. The choices we make, driven by desire or curiosity, shape not only our destiny but the world around us. In essence, Pandora's act explains why humans must navigate a world filled with both opportunity and danger. Her curiosity unleashed suffering, yes, but it also set the stage for growth, learning, and the enduring human struggle to balance desire, knowledge, and moral responsibility. Through this story, Greek mythology offers a timeless lesson. Life's challenges are inseparable from its gifts. and wisdom comes from understanding the consequences of our actions. Hope remains. Now we reach the final chapter of Pandora's story, where amidst the misfortune she releases, one gift remains: Elpis, or hope. After Pandora opened the jar and all the evils of the world escaped, disease, toil, sorrow, and death, one thing did not leave. Hidden at the bottom was hope, a small but profound gift that Zeus, intentionally or inadvertently, left for humanity. This final present serves as a symbol of resilience and endurance, reminding mortals that even in the face of suffering, they are never entirely without support or solace. The symbolism of hope is multifaceted. On one level, it represents the human capacity to endure hardship, to persevere through challenges, and to continue striving even when life is fraught with difficulty. On another level, it underscores the moral complexity of the myth. While curiosity and desire can bring suffering, the human spirit is equipped with the strength to endure and recover. Hope serves as a counterbalance to the evils released, providing a lesson that adversity is never absolute. Philosophically, the story of Pandora and Elpis raises questions about the nature of suffering, morality, and human experience. Is hope itself a gift or a subtle burden, keeping humans striving in a world filled with pain? Some interpretations suggest that hope encourages action, resilience, and moral growth, while others see it as a reminder that challenges and desires are inescapable aspects of life. In either case, the presence of hope emphasizes that the human journey is a balance of hardship and possibility. Through this myth, the Greeks conveyed profound truths about life, choice, and consequence. Pandora's curiosity brought misfortune, yet the enduring presence of hope ensures that humanity is never entirely powerless. It is a lesson in perseverance, moral reflection, and the eternal interplay between trial and opportunity. In essence, the story of Pandora AS jar, ending with hope, illustrates that while suffering is an inescapable part of existence, the human spirit possesses the capacity to endure, adapt, and aspire, making life a continuous journey of growth, learning, and resilience. This concludes the story of Pandora and the Jar of Evils, completing the foundational creation and early human mythic narratives. We have now fully covered chaos, the rise of Titans, Cronus, the Olympians, Prometheus, and Pandora.